Hey guys, it's Vandy. As a by Vanguard deck profiles. I hope you guys enjoyed. If like, comment, subscribe, Mr. Story. This time we're covering DZ set 4 for Dark States Blangdmire. So Blangdmire got some nice upgrades in set 4. It feels a little bit more consistent with the binding now. Honestly, the old version of this deck felt like it did its job well, but it felt like what I would call more consistent, quote unquote, while this deck is actually more consistent, but that deck didn't rush like this one does. And to give you an idea of what I mean by that, this deck, I can just throw down my hand, I can willingly go to 5 damage, and then I can just stall on 5 damage for like 3 to 4 turns for some reason. So let's get the starter shot and see what we got, because honestly, this deck is not what I expected it to be, and it's really fun to play that way. So first we have our energy generator. Obviously, it's our ride deck crest. You remember ride deck crest in your ride deck, auto ride deck. When you drive this card into your crest zone, if you want second energy charge 3, then contains up to 10 energies and auto begin your ride phase, energy charge 3, then act once per turn, energy about 7, draw a card, all around pretty solid. It's a free 3 energy every turn. Your main grade 2, who we'll get to in a second, pretty much takes up 3 energy to use every turn, so being able to kind of refill that cost is great. And if you end up breaking throughout the game, you can use energy plus 7 to draw a card, which most likely you won't, but there are times where you'll be able to do it thanks to our addition of this grade 1 over here. So I do like to have the ride deck crest here. I mean, it's mandatory to have it anyway, so this is our ride deck crest. Then we move on to our starter. We have Cavity Malagia. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base, auto rope hop, and second draw card, standard start, free draw if you go second. You can really make this any starter you want, just to make it Cavity Malagia, just because it is Blangdmire's technical canonical starter, so that's why too. Again, you can make any starter you want. None of the random cards just to make it, because again, canonicalness. And move on to our triggers. We want our over trigger, Terrifying Wicked Dragon King Vampires. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power, over trigger, more trigger in your deck. Remove it at trigger, move the card, draw a card, choose one move, I guess, for the turn. And if it during a jet check, activate its additional effect, what you get during your turn. All your vanguards get plus 10,000 power, plus 1 critical to end this fight. Arm pretty solid, because whether you drive this or damage check this, someone gets a mill, you get a draw. But if you drove check this, for the rest of the game, your vanguard essentially is guaranteed crit pressure, and the one downside to Blag is that he only gets the extra crit once during the entire game. So if you just end up stacking the over on top of him, on the turn he divine skills, that's going to be a fun turn. But then any turn past that or before that, he's going to constantly have that double crit pressure. And if you pull this early enough, like on your grade 1 turn, your opponent's in for one hell of a ride, because that means for the rest of the game, your Vanguard will always get that 10k in a crit. And if you play this deck like I do, they will have to deal with a rush on top of that. So when a Vamp Freeze, you can make it vulnerable for consistent multi-attacking, you can make it Dysphoria for recycling, you can make it Dark Overtrigger for healing and calling. I choose to make it Vamp Freeze because I prefer to use the Nation Overtriggers in the respective decks. Then move on to our normal triggers. We run 3 copies of Rouse Mob, Rouse Riley, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base, continues guards, opens Vanguard to grade 3 grade, plus 5,000 shield. Arm pretty solid, she's a 10k shield, it's nice to have. She's also draw triggers, helps increase the hand. I believed that this deck was gonna have more problems decking out than the other one did. It doesn't, weirdly enough, so Riley being a 3 of, honestly I don't have time to put it a 4 of, is nice, but also again the 10k shield is good to have, and the draw trigger help filtering out the hand and trying to draw more port units is great, so we have our 3 up for here. Then of course we have 8 crits, 4 copies of Dire Bethany, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power. You can make this any crit you want just to make it Bethany, because like the starter, it is technically speaking Blangdmire's canonical critical trigger, since any of the any of the DZ start deck boss units are technically a part of the respective Fated One clans. So Bethany is technically Blangdmire's crit. Either whether you can make it any crit you want. Then of course we have 4 Stem Deviate, Dragon Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power, critical trigger, auto rear guard, and then boost to shove it to soul chooser, you can 2k for the turn. Arm pretty solid. The 2k doesn't do anything unless you're in very specific situations, but it's there in case you need it. But also it goes to soul, so in case you don't end up seeing any of your soul charges throughout the game, for whatever reason that may be, and you only draw triggers exclusively, you can use Stem Deviate to send itself to soul and not possibly soul charge triggers if you're afraid of that, or just in case again you don't have any soul charges to begin with. So 4 Stem Deviate all around. We have the 8 crits for that nice pressure, because your rear guards most likely have critical triggers on them, or if they don't, well, they have good numbers to back it up. And of course, we have Joyful Songstar, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power, standard heal, no spell. You can really extend here you want. Again, like Bethany is technically speaking Blangdmire's canonical heal trigger, so there we go, that's why she's here. You can even make the county heals. I just used to make it the consistent 15k shield, because I don't like the fluctuating 10 to 25, but again, any heal you want works here. Then move on to our grade 1s. First up, we have 3 copies of this card I did not think I would use, and to be fair with you, he rarely shows up, but on the occasions he does, I use him a lot more than I thought I would, and that is Steam Fighter Urnashi. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto when put on guard circle. If your vanguards are grade 3 or greater Blangdmire, soul boss 1 to end of that battle. This unit gets continuous when this card be retired from guard circle, bind it face down instead of retiring it, and it gets 10,000 shield. Arm pretty solid, because while it does eat up a soul from Blag, it does get you another bound card, which is great, and it turns itself into a 15k shield, which is even better. My only hate with this thing, because I really wanted Black to find a way to bind before you get to grade 3, and to be fair, they're not going to do that for a while, because even, like, any possibility that Black would have to get Divine Skill on its first grade 3 turn would be absolutely busted, especially since its Divine Skill does not specify it has to swing into a grade 3, so there's that. But either way, though, being able to get a 15k shield out as early as the first grade 3 turn is great, but also mention that it does bind itself, so you can build up your bind zone a little bit quicker, is still very solid. So I like Uranashe a lot, and if you have to throw down it for the guard and you have like limited soul, at least you're only losing 1 soul just to rebind that card. So Blangdmire's soul blast cost, quote unquote, is like kind of met here. So 3 of here. Its defensive is obviously not my favorite card, but it still works a lot better than I thought it would. And move on to our other grade ones. 4 copies of Illusionary Lantern Demonic Lady Folklore. So a grade 1 boost for Kashodeke base. She has the moon in the background, so we obviously know why I love her. But man, I gotta say this. After running her in the Sacrifice Glass deck, my god, she's become one of my favorite grade 1s to spam. All in one place on rearguard circle from the hand, energy charge 1. Okay, this deck literally only places from hand except for this one unit right here. So you will almost always get that ability off. So free energy charge to spam, I don't know, with Zamug over here, or just to set up for your energy generator, especially if you went second, so that when you hit 6 energy on turn 2, you can play her, energy charge to 7, energy blast 7 to draw a card, because it doesn't require either play to be at a specific grade. And then on your next turn, you have 3 energies, which means you have just enough to use Zamug. Anyways, continuing, her second skill is auto rear guard. At the end of the battle that she boosted, if you energy blast for 3 or more times for the cost of your card's ability this turn, retire her, draw a card. Arm pretty solid. You use the energy blast from the orders skill, you get to draw a card. Use the energy blast from Zamug skill, you get to draw a card. She's nice to have around. She helps increase the hand. She's an early card that you can rush with because she, again, energy charges regardless of what grade you're at. She sets up Zamug, she sets up the energy generator. What's nothing about her? Easy forward. Honestly, like, my early game rush board consists of this, and sometimes this even, just to, like, again, pressure out the opponent. Then when we get to grade 2, oh my god, it's like attack galore with these two. So, yeah, 4 of her. She just does her job so well. Then we have 4 copies of Steam Artist Heirloom, so grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto when placed on the rearguard circle, soul charge 1, then if your vanguards are grade 3 or grade to Blangdmire, check the top 2 instead of soul charging 1, and then choose 2 cards from them, put them to yourself. If you did not put 2 cards, shuffle the deck. Armor pretty solid because regardless, you're getting a soul charge at least out of this, but then if you don't end up having, but if you do have the Blangdmire grade, then technically speaking, you get to soul charge 2 in one go, and that could possibly net you 2 Shadow Colossus who could, in theory, pull off the vanguard skill on first grade 3 turn. I still hate the fact that, like, within my first 5 games, I got so close to doing it on my first grade 3 turn, and then I never was able to do it again. But being able to soul charge 2 is great if you really need to, and then auto back or rear guard circle at the end of your turn, sorry. And the critical of your Vanguard Blangdmire's card name was increased by the Divine Skill ability this turn specifically, sadly not this game. Retire this unit to draw a card, and then if your other unit the same card name as this unit was not retired this turn, your opponent gets, at the beginning of the ride phase, you may choose a card from your hand's guard. If you do not discard, you cannot ride or strike until the turn, until your opponent's next turn, end of your opponent's next turn. Okay, so this ability is technically a hard once per game. I mean, if you have 3 of these in the back row, then I mean, yeah, you could still pull off all their effects and draw 3 cards, but the downside is this ability is only going to work on the turn you play the Divine Skill, which, I mean, prevents your opponent from possibly Persona riding and getting all their skills back, but it's just prefer that this didn't have that cost attached to that. But either way, though, this card is nice because regardless if you want to early game rush with it or not, you do get the free soul charge. And again, if you're on the Blangdmire grade 3, you could possibly get double Colossus and Soul, which has happened to me once at least. And then this skill, well, it's nice to shut down in case your opponent does survive the Divine Skill turn, making it hard for them to win and making it a lot easier for you to win on your next turn because Divine Skill also shuts down opponents' twin drive, so they have less drag checks. So 4 Team Artists are win. They move on to 4 copies of Evoke Alchemist, so grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. I'm just now noticing this guy has wings. Continues rearguard circle during the battle. He boosts if your vanguards are grade 3 or grade to Blangdmire, plus 5,000 power, so 13k. And then he's pretty much my favorite of like the special vanguard boosters outside of Foxtail, because auto rearguard, when this unit boosts a grade 3 or greater vanguard Blangdmire in the card name, it'll get plus 2,000 power for the battle. Okay, 15k booster going into, let's just assume it's a 23k swing, so 38k swing all around a first grade 3 turn, pretty solid. But then, if your bind zone is 4 more cards face down in it, which if you end up paying that 38k swing, you're probably going to have that regardless. CB1, choose over from a rear guard, stand it, and then if your bind zone is 8 or more cards in it, plus 15,000 power for that turn. Doesn't require the opponent to be at grade 3, get you 4 attacks. God forbid you hit all 4 Colossus into Soul almost immediately, but if you do, whatever you stood gets an additional 15k. You're probably also Divine Skilling there, because even if you don't kill them that turn, it's going to at least apply some form of pressure to them. So either way, Evoke Alchemist is a very solid grade 1 to have. It does eat its way into the CB with Zamu, but hey, you know what? It gets you a restand, it gets you good numbers out of it, especially as the game progresses, because once you hit the Divine Skill turn, because that obviously requires you to have 8 or more cards in bind zone, that automatically means your restand will always have the 15k, which is nice, and not to mention the fact that it's always a 15k booster itself, and is a good card you can rush with in the early game, and if your opponent kills it, well, we have ways to call out from Soul via Red Rock over here. So, for Revoke Alchemist, very solid grade 1, I do like having it. Then we have 4 copies of our PG and Ready to Kill Disruptor, grade 1 boost, 0 shows, base continuous Seto, you have 4 Sentinels deck on, put on guard circle, choose one mutes, it cannot be hit in the battle. If your hand has 2 more cards in it, choose a card from hand, card is standing PG, nothing to specify basically needs this one more card in hand placed on guard circle. You don't have to score great because that means you be as aggressive in the early game, spam the ever living hell out of these 4, and then when your opponent eventually counterattacks you, throw down this PG, give them the middle finger, and you're safe. Now, again, there are going to be times where, wait, what the hell am I saying? Like I said earlier in this video, there are going to be times, especially if you play like me, where you will almost always hit 5 damage really quickly, but then you can just stall on 5 for like 3 to 4 turns straight, just because that's just how the deck works for some reason, and Ridicule Disruptor is really helpful in doing that for some reason. So, it's all around a very solid PG. You can use any PG you want. If you have better luck using Riskill Hate Dragon, you can use that one. If you have better luck with what's the other? Repelled Malice Dragon, you can use that one as well. I used to make a Ridiculous Disruptor because it came out close to the time of Blangdmire's release. Then we move on to our last grade 1 of in the ride deck, none in the main deck, of Hollow Raptor. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. I'm not noticing he has wings on his eyes, or let me rephrase that. He has eyes on his wings. Auto, when rode upon by Vacant Fang, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, put all grade 1 or greaters from among them into your soul, and then put the rest on bottom in the order. If you put 2 or more cards from your soul, draw a card. Okay, the thing I really love about this ride line is that when it procs into Blangdmire, unless all you saw were triggers for the next 6 cards every time you use these cards' skill, you will almost always be able to at least bind 4 cards of Blangdmire's skill on your first grade 3 turn, which is solid. Either way, though, being able to add more cards to soul almost instantly just by being rode upon for free is great, especially because it could possibly get you draws, and it sends the triggers to bottom, so it lessens your chance of drawing triggers. I like Hollow Raptor a lot. I think it's a very solid grade 1. I also like the fact that it's like a bird instead of just like an actual raptor. So one of in the ride deck for me, none in the main deck, because sadly it has no rear guard skill, but hey, it's cool for what it is, so I like having it. Then move on to our grade 2s. 4 copies of Steam Raider Zamook. If you're playing a black deck and this is not in it, then you are not playing a black deck in any way, shape, or form unless you're playing budget, and in that case, you can't afford this. Anyways, grade 2 is 5k shield, 10k base. All don't place on rear guard circle. Vanguards are grade 3 or greater Blangdmire. Combos will reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. Put any number of them into your soul. If you put 1 or more into your soul, you draw a card. Also shuffle the deck before you do the draw. Okay, that skill is so good because it sends anything to soul. A lot of the cards just say you can't send triggers, or like they kind of imply that you can't send triggers, and most of the time you don't send triggers from this effect anyways. But if you're low on soul, you just need to send triggers to soul. Or if you're low on deck cards and you see a draw trigger off this, send a draw trigger to soul. That's what I've done. Like, this can trigger thin, but you can also just prevent it from, like, decking you out. Like, I will literally send draw trigger to soul, and that actually won me a game one time, because if I didn't send that draw trigger to soul, I probably would have lost from deck out. I would have had a 50-50 chance of losing to deck out. Either way, though, being able to increase the hand and also increase your soul at the same time, offered as 1 CB is great, especially because, you know, worst case scenario, he could possibly be a free soul charge 3, which is nice. And then auto rear guard, when this unit attacks on anything, your vanguards are grade 3 great Blangdmire, and this unit's critical is 1 or less. Energy Blast 3, and this unit gets plus 7 power and plus 1 crit for the battle. Arm pretty solid, 15k swing, double critical. It doesn't sound like a lot, but again, it is pressure forcing your opponent to guard it. You boost it with Alchemist Restand skill. It's a 30k swing with double critical. Personarize, 40k without triggers. You get the point, not to mention the fact that you can boost with it. And typically, if you're going to restand it from Alchemist, you're probably going to restand the one that's going to be guarded easily. So if they're at grade 3, typically you're going to boost this thing first and then do it. And then, you know, Alchemist will restand, then swings on its own with double crit. Either way, those Zamook is a pretty solid grade 2. I do like having it. It's definitely there for pressure, and getting 2 of these out on the front row, especially on the Divine Skill turn, is very threatening because that means your entire front row has double critical. So 4 of Zamook. And we have 4 copies of Veda Rock Dragon. Grade 2 at 5k shield, 10k base. Okay. I feel like I was accidentally prepping myself to play Vedarock because originally I ran a Malva in this deck because I was quote-unquote trying to base the deck off of Suo, when in reality that was just me waking up too early in the morning and I literally couldn't put a deck together, so I just like kind of took whatever I remember from Suo's deck and shoved it in there. Also, I just really wanted to use Malva, but then this card came into existence, which is essentially Malva for Blangdmire specifically, so it kind of works out in my favor. Anyways, Vedarock, grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base, auto place on rear guard circle during the battle phase, soul charge 1, then counter boss 1, choose a grade 12 card from your soul with a different card name from this unit, call it to rear guard circle. If your Vanguard is a Blangdmire, if your Vanguard isn't a Blangdmire, at the end of that turn, put that card to soul. So essentially, this is a free soul charge regardless of when you place this, or even more, that's a free soul charge as long as you place this during your main phase, or anytime during other than the battle phase, but you get a free soul charge, and then if you want to call something, you CB1, and you get the extra rear guard, and then if your Vanguard's on a Blangdmire, it goes to soul. But I mean, Call Zalmoog while you're a grade 2. Call Holoraptor while you're a grade 2, just a grade 1 rush your opponent. Call literally any of these if they end up in soul. Like, all around, Vedorok is just a good supporting grade 2 because in the early game you can rush it. In the late game, will get you a rear guard you might need from your soul. And then continues rear guard during turn. It gets plus into the power for every face down, for every 4 face down cards in your bind zone. So, you know, Blangdmire's first grade 3 turn, 20k swing, Divine Skill turn, 30k swing, not 33k swing. Probably 40k swing because you might Persona with that. And anytime past that is going to be somewhere between 30 and 50, counting Persona Rides, not counting Persona Rides. So Vedorok is all around a very solid grade 2. Gets numbers for beat 6 once the late game turns around, or like once you get to grade 3 in general. And not to mention that it does help increase soul and it gets you more rear guards. And I mean, if Bushy ever prints like a deck that binds your opponent's cards face down, this thing will be like hell in that matchup. So for Vedorok, very solid grade 2. I like having it around. It definitely works with my aggressive playstyle. I move on to our last grade 2 in the deck, one of them in the right deck, none in the main deck of Vacant Fang. Grade 2 is at 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when this unit is rolled upon by a grade 3 card, Blangdmire in the card name. Reveal top 3, put all grade 1 or greatest into your soul, and then shuffle the deck. If you put 2 or more cards, draw a card. All around pretty solid. It's literally just the exact same as Vacant Fang, or sorry, Holoraptor. But I mean, it again gets you soul, and it actually shuffles the deck. So in case you want to, well, actually, it benefits you to shuffle a deck because you know now with your Vanguard having Twin Drive, you have the chance to see triggers more often. If that means you are more likely to draw into a trigger via its rest of its skill, but still nice to have. Gets you possibly 2 to 3 soul for free almost immediately. I mean, at least 1 hopefully, but it also gets you hand cards as well. And it is nice to have. I love having Vacant Fang in this ride deck, so it's a one of here. And move on to our grade 3s. 4 copies of Single Strike Shatter Colossus. Grade 3 turns up Persona 13k base, arguably the most important grade 3 you have in this deck. Auto Warrior Guard when this unit attacks into a Vanguard. If your bind zone has 4 more face down cards in it, you may have this unit get 1000 power for that battle. If you do at the end of the battle, put this unit to soul. Okay, cool. It can send itself to soul. It's a 23k swing. The only requirement is you have to have 4 more face down cards. And if you don't have that, you can swing with Colossus first, swing with Blangdmire, use Blangdmire skill, bind more cards, boost Blangdmire with Alchemist, Alchemist skill, stand that Colossus, then attack with that Colossus again. This time it does get the 10k. And the reason why this card's really good and why this card can possibly make Blangdmire have its skill proc off on first grade 3 turn, auto when is put into your soul by your card's ability, any ability, it can be its own. This soul charge ability counts, FYI, and so does Aurum back here. But then when you're, anyways, when it's put into soul by your card's ability, if your Vanguard's a grade 3 grade Blangdmire, bind this card face down, draw a card. We don't need to focus on the bind draw. We just need to we don't need to focus on the draw part. We just need to focus on the bind part. If by some miracle of God you get lucky and yeet these into soul, all of them into soul via the abilities of Vacant Fang, Vedorok, Zalmoog, and Aurum over here, you can pull off Blangdmire's Divine Skill on your first grade 3 turn, regardless of your opponent's Vanguard's grade. Is this likely to happen? No. But again, I say, within my first 5 games, not using this deck, just using the old one, the one that we all know was not optimal in any way, shape, or form, I got 7 out of 8. So I pulled 3 of those Colossuses, and I was 1 short of having Divine Skill on first grade 3 turn, while the opponent was at grade 2. It's not likely. And honestly, if you want to just like maximize that, swap these 2 out for like Brainwash and any other Soul Charger, and you might honestly hit it. You have a decent chance. 4 of Colossus. This card is like good just balance-wise. Like it's pretty much best used on first grade 3 turn, because after that, you have so much better beat 6 and much better finishers. But like first grade 3 turn, this card has the possibility just to auto win you the game because of double crit. Is it likely to happen? Not really, but you can push for it, and if it does happen, even if you don't kill your opponent, you are definitely going to be in the advantage seat. So 4 of Single Strike Shatter Colossus, all around very solid grade 3 to have. Helps increase the soul, auto helps to increase the bind zone, gets you hand cards, and is a decent swinger, so 4 for us. And then we have our last card in the deck. Obviously, we have to talk about our main grade 3. 3 of them in the main deck, 1 of them in the ride deck. A Faded One of Zettel, Blangdmire. Grade 3, Twin Drive, Persona Ride, 13k base. Auto Vanguard, when it attacks into a Vanguard, bind 2 or more cards from your soul, up to a total of 4, face down, and you may draw a card. So, I mean, bind at least 2, you get a free draw. Then if you bound 4 or more, your opponent chooses 2 of their rear guards, bind them face down, and this unit gets 5,000 power for every 2 face down cards in your bind zone. So for the record, no matter what you do, as long as you bind at least 2, you get that draw. But to get the rest of this effect, you have to bind 4. I don't know why it says bind 4 or more. because that's not how this skill works, but whatever. Either way, though, being able to bind 2 of your opponent's rear guards, granted, they get to pick, but being able to force them to lose 2 rear guards is helpful, especially if they're playing like an aggro deck or deck that like specifies what rear guards they have to keep. It definitely does hurt them a lot if they have to keep losing those pieces. And, you know, being able to up increase your own power in the process is great, because if you are binding 4, that's an automatic free 10k, so 23k swing, and you do get a free draw. You don't have to draw to get the power, so all around, if you're afraid to like draw a trigger, or you think you're going to deck out, you don't have to get the draw, which is nice to have. And then the Divine Skill, the reason why everyone was so like hyped about this card when it was first released. Auto Vanguard, at the beginning of the guard step of the battle this unit attacked, and basically after all on attack skills activate, if your bind zone has 8 or more face down cards in it, you may have this unit get a critical for the turn. If you do have it get a critical for the turn, your opponent cannot play Sentinels from hand until end of that turn, and then you choose one of your opponent's Vanguards until the end of your opponent's next turn. All of your opponent's that unit's abilities are nullified. So pretty much what that means, F Twin Drive. So if they stay on that Vanguard, and they had Twin Drive originally, when it swings this next turn, if they stay on that Vanguard, they only get 1 drive check. F any abilities they had. If they were playing a mirror match, they lose all the text on their card. They get to keep Persona Ride, but that's pretty much it. So, and if they Persona Ride, then obviously, because it only affected the 1 unit, then the abilities all come back. But point is, any ability that is given is nullified. If like you, the player, got an ability, like say for example, you got a Persona Ride that activated on your opponent's turn for some reason, that ability would be nullified, like all around, and it also shuts down PGs. And specifically, play Sentinels from hand. Well, granted, it only applies for your turn, but I mean, still, it would technically stop your opponent from calling PGs to rearguard circles. Either way, though, being able to increase its crit, and while it doesn't technically gain power in that skill, it gains a lot of power from here. Since, you know, you have to have 8, most likely it's going to be, what, that is plus a total of 20 to Vanguard. So 33, probably Persona Ride turn, 43, probably boosted by Alchemist, so 58 double critical, which is, again, pressurable where your opponent can't PG it and they lose all their skills. So Blangdmire is a very solid grade 3 for just like outright pushing. Has a very powerful finishing turn going in for it, and it like slowly can push your opponent for game. And again, this deck consistently gets pushed to 5 the way I play, and yet it can consistently stay on it because A, that draw skill is really helpful. B, this ability to remove rear guards. C, its ability just to hit for decent numbers all around and constantly force out pressure, so your opponent, while they're trying to keep up their board presence, also has to guard from hand. Vedrock for pressure and soul charge. Zamu for being Zamoog, and just pretty much everyone here does their job well. So save in the main deck, one of them in the ride deck. And without further ado, this one, I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck is actually really fun to play. It fits me to a T, where, like I said again, I can just like feel free to rush whenever I feel like it. And again, the first match I played with it, it felt really weird to be able to be pushed to 5 and then just sit there for a few turns and just not have to worry about it. Especially because I'll just like casually sack my heals out of it. Like, that's the other helpful part. Like, the heals just kind of show up on a whim. But either way, though, that's it for this one. I hope you all enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, don't forget to switch. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't send up your Vanguards.